Sir, in the last videos we covered very clearly try with the multiple catch blocks. Now the next cinema what I have to start, finally block. What is the concept, sir? Can you please spell out? Finally block. Sir, now I have what is the need of finally block? What is the speciality of finally block? You have to get much clarity right here. Just observe. Do you know? Open DB connection. I open one database connection. Okay, open database connection. Next, read data. Are you getting? Read the data. Open DB connection, read the data, and then close DB connection. Close DB connection. Like assume open DB connection, read the data, close DB connection. Do you know, close DB connection, this activity is called resource deallocation code. We are deallocating the resource. This activity is called what? Resource deallocation code. Are you getting? Resource deallocation code. We are deallocating the resource. Such a type of code is also known as cleanup code. Such a type of code is also known as cleanup code, not close up. Close up is also meant for cleanup only. Okay, sir, it is a cleanup code. Okay, well, first clarity, which is called cleanup code. Okay, resource deallocation code, like closing DB connection, closing the file. Okay, like this type of things are by default considered as resource cleanup code. Okay, sir, resource deallocation code, cleanup code, right? Now my question is, observe carefully, sir. Here I am taking try block. Sir, now open DB connection, and read the data, followed by close DB connection, like this. If any exception is coming, now catch exception, corresponding handling code is there. Can you please tell, is this approach, is it recommended or not? You respond. Is this approach either recommended or not? Approach means, so writing cleanup code inside a try block, is it recommended or not? Okay, so it's a never recommended. Okay, write cleanup code inside a try block, never recommended. What is the reason for that is, suppose you open DB connection successfully while reading data. Sir, while reading data, some exception got raised. Here some exception got raised. Immediately the control will go to catch block. So if the control will goes to the catch block, who is going to close a database connection? Regarding who will close my DB connection, it is the problem. Correct or not? Okay, here only the control goes to catch block, then who is going to close my DB connection? It is always a problem. That's why it is never recommended to maintain cleanup code inside a try block, because if there is no guarantee for the execution of every statement inside the try block. Sir, before this, if an exception rises, then this line is not going to be executed. Who is going to close DB connection? So no one is going to close. One database connection will be wasted. Is it clear, right? So try block never meant for cleanup code. Okay, well, so now I'm taking one more approach. Here try block I'm taking. Within the try block, open DB connection, read the data, like. Now catch block I'm taking, okay. Inside catch block, let me write close DB connection. Close DB connection, like this I'm taking, sir. Can you please tell, writing cleanup code inside catch block, is it recommended or not recommended? Can you please confirm? Writing cleanup code inside catch block, is it recommended or not recommended? Again, not recommended. What is the reason for that is, Sir, if there is no exception, then catch block won't execute. If the catch block is not going to execute, then who is going to close DB connection? Are you getting that? That's why, so to close DB connection, compulsory we have to raise exception, meaningless. That's why this approach is also not at all recommended. Clear for all of you, right? Okay. So we never recommended to write cleanup code inside a try block because there is no guarantee for every statement execution inside a try block. Before this line here, if an exception is coming, then this line is not going to execute. Okay. Next, never recommended to write cleanup code inside catch block. What is the problem? What is the problem here is, what is the problem? If there is no exception, catch block is not going to execute, then who is going to close my DB connection? That's why this approach is also not recommended. Okay, well, sir, we require some place to maintain cleanup code. I want some place to write cleanup code which should be executed always, whether exception raised, not raised, handled or not handled. Sir, in any case, my cleanup code should be executed, sir. Do you have such a type of place? That place is nothing but finally block. Remember this one, sir. Finally block, specially designed concept to maintain cleanup code. Okay, observe the approach here. Try block. Now open DB connection, DB connection, and read the data. Okay, now catch block, some handling code, exception E, some handling code, some handling code we can take. Next, finally block. Regarding next one, finally block, inside finally close DB connection. Regarding finally block, inside finally close the DB connection. Like this I'm taking, sir. Sir, now the biggest advantage of this finally block is this finally block will be executed always, whether exception raised, not raised, handled or not handled. Even in abnormal termination also, finally block will be executed. That's why, so the main objective of finally block is to maintain cleanup code. The biggest specialty of finally block is, what is the specialty of finally block, sir? So this block will be executed always, irrespective of whether exception raised, not raised, handled or not handled. Such a type of best place is nothing but finally block. Everyone can able to understand, right? What is the need of finally block? What is the specialty of finally block? Okay, like now observe this one. Inside a try block, which code we can take? Respond. Which code we can take? Risky code. Inside a try block, which code we can take? Risky code. Next, inside catch block, which code we can take? Handling code. Next, inside finally block, which code we can take? This code itself is, what is the code, sir? Which code we can take inside finally block? So risky code, handling code, and then here cleanup code. Okay, very important question for the interview room also. What is the purpose of finally block? To maintain cleanup code, resource deallocation code. Sir, what is the specialty of finally block? The specialty of finally block is, sir, it will be executed always, whether exception raised, not raised, handled or not handled. In any case, my finally block will be executed. That is the biggest specialty, right? Sir, if you feel comfortable, I will explain all these things with respect to an example. Then you can get much clarity on the concept. Clear up to this? Sir, up to this, it is very clear what is the purpose of finally block. Now let me go for programming example so that you will get much clarity. Have a look once. Here, case 1. I want to take case 1. If there is no exception, assume that if there is no exception finally block will be executed or not. I want to show programmatically, right? Sir, assume try block system dot out dot println try is there. Okay, that's it. Next catch block exception e, catch block exception e, system dot out dot println. Okay, sir, catch block like. Next finally, okay, finally system dot out dot println finally. Observe very carefully, sir. Okay, finally, like. Can you please tell, in this scenario, any exception riser? No, simple SOP statements, that's all, no exception. If there is no exception, okay, what is the flow? Sir, try block will be executed. Immediately, the control will goes to finally block. Because there is no exception, catch block won't be executed. That's why, what is the output by default we will get, sir? Try followed by finally. Are you getting what is the output? Output we are going to get try followed by finally. That's all. So first case, it is very clear. If there is no exception, finally block will be executed compulsory. Let me check with example. Have a look. Let me execute this code here. Just I am taking. Observe carefully, sir. It is the try block, catch block, finally block. There is no exception in the try. There is no exception in the try. Now, what is the output we are going to get, sir? Have a look once. Try followed by finally. Have you observed? What is the answer we are going to get, sir? Try followed by finally. Okay? If there is no exception, finally will be executed. Okay? Now, let me go for case 2, sir. Okay? Case 2. If an exception raised and handled, observe, if an exception raised and handled, so handled means the corresponding catch block is there. Okay, like now try, here observe, system dot out dot println try, I'm taking try block. Now system dot out dot println 10 by 0, sir. SOP of 10 by 0 like. Now catch, okay, arithmetic exception E, catch block, arithmetic exception E, system dot out dot println, okay, this is the catch block, sir. Catch block, finally, okay, finally, system dot out dot println, finally block. Are you getting finally? SOP of finally block. Take very special care about this terminology, right? Sir, try executed. And whenever we are getting arithmetic exception, immediately, sir, the corresponding catch block will execute. Okay, catch. After catch block, yes, finally will be executed anyway. Sir, what is the output we are going to get, sir? Try. Whenever arithmetic exception is coming, catch block, sir, catch, and after catch block, finally will be executed normally. So, try catch finally is the output we are going to get, sir. Are you getting? So, case 2 is the very clear, finally will be executed if an exception raised and handled. Clear, right? Let me execute this code. Observe that. Have a look once. Same code. Only a small change here is, let me raise arithmetic exception. Okay, here assume that it is the arithmetic exception. Okay, now exception raised, sir. At this line exception raised, but the corresponding catch block is already available. After catch block, immediately finally will be continued, sir. So now case 2, let me compile. Yes, happily the code compiled. Let me execute. Try catch finally. This is the output we are going to get, sir. Perfect. Try catch finally. This is the output we are going to get, sir. So if there is no exception, if an exception raised and handled, happily my finally block executed. Can you please tell what is the next case? Array, guess man. What is the next case? If an exception raised but not handled. Arey, exception riser man, but not handled. Abnormal termination. In this case, finally block will be executed or not. Observe a bit carefully, right? Here, so case 3, sir. If an exception raised, if an exception raised, if an exception raised, but not handled, but not handled, what will happen? Now observe, try block, system.out.println, try sir, and then system.out.println 10/0. Can you please tell which exception will be raised? Respond. Which exception will be raised, sir? SOP of 10/0. Which exception? Arithmetic exception. But available catch block is null pointer exception. Observe that. Available catch block is null pointer exception. Okay, means that you are having heart problem, but a doctor available, eye specialist is available. What he can do? Are you getting? So here riser exception is arithmetic exception, but available catch block is null pointer exception. So it can't handle arithmetic exception, abnormal termination. Okay, now system.out.println catch block, sir. Catch block, and then I'm taking finally, and then finally system.out.println finally block I'm taking. That's it. Sir, take a bit very special care about this. Sir, this example is the very important when compared with the last two. Sir, flow you should aware. Now observe SOP of try. So what is the output we will get, sir? First try will be printed. Okay, well, now whenever we are executing this one, arithmetic exception riser. Whenever arithmetic exception riser, immediately JVM will check, is there any corresponding catch block? No. This catch block for null pointer exception, but not arithmetic exception. That's why. So is there any corresponding catch block? No catch block. Abnormal termination. But before abnormal termination, JVM is always going to execute finally blocker. Remember this one. It's always abnormal termination. Hand over to default exception handler. But before hand over to default exception handler, before abnormal termination, compulsory finally block will be executed, sir. Okay. So this speciality is available only for finally block. Suppose after finally block, some more statements are there. These statements won't be executed. Only finally block will be executed. After that, abnormal termination. Now observe, try, and then finally, try, and then finally, and then runtime exception, arithmetic exception, division by 0. Remember this one. Sir, it is abnormal termination, but even in abnormal termination, finally block will be executed. Now terminology is the very clear for you people, right? Okay, sir, let me execute this one. Have a look once, sir. Sir, now these two is the same, riser exception, arithmetic exception, but here available catch block is null pointer exception. Now have a look. Happily the code compiles fine, no problem at all. Have you observed? Try finally, and then try finally, and then abnormal termination. Okay, even in the case of abnormal termination, compulsory finally block will be executed. Is it clear for all of you, right? This is the speciality of the finally block. So if there is no exception, if an exception raised and handled, if an exception raised but not handled, finally block will be executed always. That is the biggest speciality of finally block. Everyone can able to understand? 2 points you people should aware, sir. Point number 1, what is the purpose of finally block? To maintain cleanup code, resource reallocation code. Next, what is the speciality of finally block? Finally block speciality is it will be executed always, irrespective of whether exception raised, not raised, handled, not handled. In any case, my finally block will be executed. Clear?